G'day everyone. Volbaino has 5 core combos that make up most of his attacks against you. He has 2 burst combos, a phase transition combo, and a rare ranged combo that you don't see very often. He also has an attack that buffs his chisel, which has a few not so obvious interactions. He also has one special ability which, if you don't know how it works, will wipe you. So let's get into it. When the boss claps his hammer and chisel together in front of him like this, he's applying a buff to his chisel. It'll also do a little bit of damage to you if you're standing too close. Let's look at this closely. As you can see here, before he claps the hammer and chisel, the chisel has its normal metal appearance. And after he claps, you'll now see that the chisel is glowing kind of a yellowy orange with fire. At this point, all chisel attacks are going to build up the flame status on you. Even when you brink guard, you'll get some flame status and take a small amount of damage. Dodging chisel attacks when it's on fire is the perfect solution, but brink guarding is still kind of viable because it will actually remove the fire buff from the chisel if you brink guard those attacks. As you can see, it's back to its normal metal, the fire's gone. As you lower the boss's health, he'll start to buff the chisel more frequently, and in phase 2 he'll start doing a double clap to buff it even more quickly. As it gets buffed even more, it'll progress to this red colour, which is the next stage. In this state it does more flame damage, and just in general when it's buffed, he has a tendency to do some of his more dangerous attacks, in particular the burst attack, and some of the 4 and 5 part side combos that I'll show you later. As it gets more buffed, it also takes more brink guards to remove the buff, but honestly the main takeaway from all of this is that when the chisel is on fire, you need to consider dodging if you want to reduce the flame debuff that you get building up. When that hits full, it will do quite a lot of damage. As you can see, my health is just slowly ticking down. With that out of the way, let's move on to his core combos. When the boss brings the chisel across the front of him like this, he's about to do a quick left to right backhand. It is quite quick and you pretty much need to react as soon as you register that chisel coming across the front of him. Now when the chisel is on fire, there's a chance for him to add a second component to the attack, which is an overhead slam with the chisel after the backhand. When the boss raises his hammer over his head, this is a 2-part attack. It'll simply be a hammer slam followed by a second hammer slam. This is probably his most common attack. He'll spam this the entire fight, and I actually found it was kind of hard to time the first hammer. It's more delayed than you think. The visual cue that worked for me was waiting until his torso here was nearly horizontal before pressing my guard. It's quite easy to react too early as soon as you see that hammer go up in the air. Again, everyone's brain lag works differently though, so just find what cue works for you. This is definitely one you want to get used to. He spams this the whole fight. If your weapon has a quick poke, there's enough time in between to get little jabs in like this as well. When the boss swings his chisel on the side like this with both arms up nice and high, this is going to be a 4-part combo. After a small delay, he'll do an overhead hammer and chisel pretty quickly back to back, another small delay, and then an overhead slam with both weapons. This is probably his other most common combo. He spams this the whole fight along with the double hammer slam. And the 2 slams in the middle, the hammer chisel slam, they feel pretty similar to the double hammer slam, but just a little bit quicker. You've definitely got time for a quick poke after the first side chisel and after the 2 slams before the last one. Depending on your weapon and skills, you can also try to get a quick poke in between the 2 slams to really maximize damage during this combo, since he uses it so often throughout the fight. When the chisel is on fire, if you're struggling with the flame damage, you can try dodging the first, third, and fourth attacks because they all have chisel components. I found it pretty tricky to alternate though. Now when the boss raises his chisel overhead in his left hand, it's about to be a 2-part attack. He'll slam the chisel down into the ground and then hammer it in, doing a pulse of damage and a small AoE. This has a long recovery time, so if you successfully brink guard, you can do quite a bit of damage back. You can also just dodge out of the AoE like that. Now this combo interacts with the fire buff on the chisel. If it's on fire, when he does this, the chisel will stay in the ground and then he'll slowly pull it out, doing a big area of effect of fire around the boss. You just want to back up and move away from this and wait it out. As you can see, if you touch it, you get the flame debuff, which is pretty nasty. When the boss starts to swing his chisel from the side in this kind of low stance that he's in, he's about to do a 4-part attack. He's going to do 4 sideways swings, alternating between chisel, hammer, fairly quickly. But there is a short delay before the last hammer. Now if the chisel's on fire, you want to dodge the first and third. But as I said earlier, if you consistently brink guard, you're probably fine. The real risk is if you're not confident timing the brink guards and just doing a normal guard, then you'll take a lot of flame damage and you don't want that. You're better off dodging. I know this looks similar to the one we saw before, so here they are next to each other. The first one, as I said, both arms are up quite high, whereas in the second one that I just showed you, the hammer, he's in this kind of low stance and the hammer is right in front of your face. That was the main thing that I would notice. Now that's all 5 of our core combos. Let's take a look now at our 2 burst skills, which are very important. These are what you need to counter strike. When the boss raises and stomps his right foot, this indicates his burst attack coming. All he's going to do is run at you after the stomp, doing his overhead chisel slam, which is what you need to counter strike. These burst skills are pretty quick. The visual cue I used was my eyes were glued at the top of the screen just above the health bar here, watching the chisel, and the moment the chisel starts moving up off the screen, I'm hitting my counter strike. A tip for the great swords, after any counter strike, if you do a full charged Knight's Veil into a charged Swift, charged Mortal Blow, charged Swift, charged Mortal Blow, you can keep him staggered for quite a while. Check out the card and the link in the description for a greatsword kill example. When the boss goes into a whirl attack with both hammer and chisel nice and low like this, he's about to do his other burst combo. He's about to do an 8-part combo. After the whirl, which you can guard or dodge backwards, he's going to do 6 overhead slams alternating between chisel, hammer, chisel, hammer, chisel, hammer. After that, he'll wind up and swing his hammer from the side, which is the burst attack that you need to counter strike. You should be watching his hammer here, and as soon as it starts moving to the right, you need to counter strike. Now with a flaming chisel, this one will build up your flame status very quickly, so you should consider dodging every alternate chisel attack. If it's too tricky to alternate dodge and guard, you're better off just dodging all of this. At around 60 to 50% health, the boss is going to roar like this, and then run off and jump up to the top platform. This indicates his phase transition. After this, he's going to jump and leap back down, doing a big smash as he lands. This is fairly intuitive to time, but just hold guard if you need to. After this phase transition, the boss will buff his chisel far more often, and there'll be a lot more fire going on. So it's a good time to consider using a fire resistance elixir while we're in this transition, which buffs your fire resistance by 300, which is quite big. It might just help to smooth out this last half of the fight. Now there's actually not a lot of new combos in this phase, although he will occasionally throw his chisel up like this and then baseball hit it at you, which you need to block or dodge, and then the chisel will pop back down to the ground and he'll pull it out doing one of those big AoEs on the ground, which you just need to walk out of. The main difference in this phase is that he starts to do those double claps, buffing his chisel more and more often, which just means you'll get more of those nasty 4-part combos on the side swings, and just generally there's more flame damage going on. There is one alternative after he hits the chisel at you, and full disclosure, I only saw this once. I tried to get it again, and I couldn't, but basically while the chisel's still on the ground, he'll do this little swinging attack at you, and it's the only time I saw it, which is why it killed me. So just be aware that that can happen, I guess. And finally, his special ability, which he does most often at the start of phase 2, is when he licks his chisel like this, after which he's going to throw the chisel down into the ground, and then after a little rain dance, he's going to do a big hammer hit of the chisel into the ground, doing a massive AoE across the whole room. You should guard brink that. And then importantly here, when he pulls the chisel out, the entire room will be on fire. You can't escape it, you can't do anything about it. You will just burn. So to survive this, when you see the lick come up, you want to start moving towards the ladder on the wall, which you might have missed. And then probably still guard brink this, and then as soon as you've done that, start to climb up the ladder before he pulls it out, and the whole room is covered in fire. And then he'll just climb on up after you. And then give him a little love tap while he's climbing up. This is always fun. And then you can just fight up here. If the fight goes on long enough that it happens again, you can jump back down. Alright, and that's all his combos and abilities and how to deal with them. If you want to see a demonstration of a kill, I'll put a link in the description and a card just here so you can see it. I've done a greatsword kill demo there that you can go and see if you're interested. If you liked the video or the guide helped, please like or subscribe. And if you notice any good tips that I haven't mentioned, please leave them in the comments because it helps other people too. Thanks for watching everyone. Cheers.